morning, and we anticipated yesterday giving some media availability. So here we are. As you know, the news conference or the board meeting ended last night. I don't know, must have been close to 10. So the administration got the proposal after the board took its vote and was up very early this morning, starting to work around the parameters of that. We don't have an official statement at this point. We sent out the news release last night. We're just going to open it up to questions. Thank you all for helping us by sending just one representative. We don't have a lot of time, so I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to ask. So I'm just going to go through the list here as they appear on my screen and open it up with Brandon Evans at Channel 7. Hi, Brandon.
Guys, yeah, I'm just kind of curious if there's a way to kind of summarize why the board rejected the proposal for the reentry plan. Was it not enough teachers, not enough school buses and staff, and or was it a combination of a bunch of different things? And maybe could you hit some of the major items that led to the board deciding to stay virtual?
You want me to take that, or do you want Scott to take that? Or
Dr. Piercy, could you take that, please?
Sure, I'll be glad to. Well, Brandon, I think that in fact we have a pretty diverse set of districts, and I think what you saw with the vote in terms of trying to go to kind of a modified hybrid kind of model was reflective of those districts. Some of the districts are from their parents' point of view as well as teachers, but really parents as a constituent were uncomfortable with going back to in-school education. It wasn't just about teachers, although that's certainly a consideration for us when we're trying to work out all the details. So some of our northern districts, my Elizabeth, are pretty strongly believing that it's okay for them to go back to in school. Some of my other districts are no feeling that way. And I think that's how you saw the vote last night, okay? It was important for us to make a decision. We can't sit around and just try to manipulate and figure out solutions on the fly. The administration has done a great job of doing that. They have come back with as good opportunities for understanding what we could do under the requirements and under the safety constraints that we're under. And I think the board just finally said, look, we have to make a decision. And so we're going to stay virtual and maybe until we get green. We need a lot of work with our at-risk groups. Kids that need real face-to-face, just like our special ed in the red group. And we're going to try to address that, okay? And if we get some additional relief in terms of being in green, we're more than happy to come back and say, hey, the teachers now feel good about it. I think the parents will feel better about it in terms of coming back, and we'll see what we can do. But at this point, I don't know whether we have enough time to accomplish that. We need to work on what we're going to do for next year. We need to work on what we're going to do maybe for the summer, where we could get some extended learning activities and where we could do some fun recovery for learning. And when we can maybe get into full in school next fall, we need to be doing that work and make sure that we're ready and ready to go. I'm back full in school in the fall, and maybe even late summer for some extended learning activities. So we'll be definitely working on those kinds of things, as well as right now trying to get with some of these kids that really need some help. Some of the seniors need recovery help and get the grades up, those kind of things. So we're going to try to work with those kind of small groups.
Thank you, Dr. Piercy. Brittany Costello from KOB TV. Brittany.
Hi, thank you guys for your time. My first question, obviously I'm hoping that we might be able to circle back around after everyone asks, but my first question is about what this decision means for graduations and proms. Are those things that you guys are thinking about now? Have they already been taken off the table? How is that going to work? I know some things have, some hopeful things have been taken away from some of the kids, and these are kind of the upcoming things. So can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Sure. So I would say that one of the things we've continued to stress is that a return to school in any sort of hybrid model was not going to be a return to normal school. So when you talk about large dances such as prom, those are probably still prohibited by the public health order. If the public health order were to change, then we would probably see what we could do to try to bring back some elements of those schools, but it's still going to be very, very different. I don't know how you enforce 6-foot social distancing at a prom, for example. As far as graduation, we are planning to have face-to-face graduations. They may look very different than a normal year, and it may be with a very reduced audience. Again, it's driven by the health order, but we are planning to try to have as many of those sort of traditional activities as we can, as far as the law allows.
Thank you, Superintendent Elder. I don't see Brittany Bade on the panel in front of me, but I want to make sure I get all 3 TV stations. Brittany, are you with us? Okay, let's circle back there. Let's go to Shelby at the Journal. Shelby?
Yes, thank you. My question is for Interim Superintendent Elder. Does the administration have a more concrete picture of which kids exactly will be targeted for those small groups? I know there were a lot of possibilities thrown out there last night.
Well, I think the concept was to create some flexibility at the school so that those teachers that were willing to return could really begin focus on one area. You neglect other concerns. So we did try to keep engagement, social, emotional, and academics as 3 of the areas of concern, and it gives the teachers and the schools some flexibility in selecting the kids. It does mean that some students won't come in for small group work, specifically kids that may be doing better than others online. There are some kids that are being successful, and they may not have that opportunity, but the idea is to have some flexibility for the teachers to touch bases with those kids that might need that extra support to get over the hump.
Thank you for your time. My first question, I guess let me ask first, would you like us to ask 2 questions at a time, or will we be able to circle back?
Monica, you're on mute.
Sorry, we're going to try our best to circle back. I just want to make sure everybody has a chance at least to ask a question.
Sure. So people have gone back to work, thousands of people, restaurant workers, retail employees, and they don't have the vaccine. They had to go back to working in person. What about this situation? Why can't teachers do that too? Why give them the choice when all these other people have gone back to work and a lot of families want to be back in school?
Well, I think that's a difficult question to answer. I think the reality is that there were about as many families that weren't interested in returning as there were families that did want to return. Teachers are in a very enclosed space with the same students, so it's a little different. You start looking at our larger schools, even if you have it, for example, the Trisco Heritage has about 2,600 kids. So even at half capacity, you're talking about 1,300 kids. And there is some capacity for the teacher's work to be done online. So when you talk about some of the other work, it's not necessarily work that can be done virtually. So there are some differences. The reality is there's a short-term solution to what's going on in front of us right now, and then there's a little bit longer. If the teachers say, well, I'm not comfortable coming back, and let's say just 10% of them decide that they're going to leave, whether through resignation, through retirement, whatever it means, that's about 600 teachers for Albuquerque Public Schools. And even a small district that had 10% of its teachers leave would be hard pressed to find that to replace it. So there are some employment concerns, I think, that are necessary to look at the long term, because at some point we are coming back. We will be back in school, and we need our teachers and we need our school support staff to be there to make sure we can service the kids. And again, I want to remind everybody that online learning is occurring, that we are still teaching online.
Let's go to Cedar, and then Myra Aguilar from Anthrovision has a request, Superintendent Elder, to maybe get a short summary in Spanish when we're done here. So we'll go back around and then we'll get to Myra. Cedar?
Hi, Dr. Piercy. I wanted to pick up on something that you mentioned, which was this sort of geographical split in that hybrid vote. Could you talk about the pros and cons in making these big decisions and in making them in a timely manner, with APS being such a big district?
Sure. I think, again, board members are elected to represent their district. That doesn't necessarily mean that we aren't concerned with other districts. We're concerned with the whole district. In some instances, we like to represent our constituents. And I think that's what you saw last night, is that we had some board members that said, well, if I really have to make a decision for a particular thing, which maybe isn't a great decision anyway, I'm going to make it on the basis of my constituents. And that's what they did, okay? Now, the question is, though, is if we're going to look at the whole district and say what's best for the whole district, then we have to look across the whole district, okay, and what people are saying. And we had a lot of response back that said, we're happy with the online. We had quite a bit of response that said, we're not happy with some of the online, okay? Now we have to say, relative to the disruption that would happen if we tried to go to a hybrid or some other kind of a model, the question is not just safety. The question is, are we going to educate our kids, okay? And if we have disruption all the time and kids are sitting there 6 feet apart, not being able to do music, not being able to do PE necessarily very well, are they really getting a better education? And so the question, I think, for the whole board in that situation was, we have to make a decision. And since we said as a board, we didn't like the kind of options we had with a hybrid aspect, we went back to the full online because we do have some success there. We do understand what we're doing. It is not going to be disruptive. Parents do have a schedule, whether they like it or not. And so we think we can make that happen for the last 3 months, okay? And then spend a lot more time working on what we're going to do here in the near future. The legislature, we're working on things with the legislature. We may have some extended learning issues that we need to deal with. And so, I think the board as a whole said, let's do it that way, okay? We could have talked for another hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, and where would we have been? We'd have probably been complained about, because we didn't make a decision or something. We made a decision, okay? So that's kind of the idea. Sometimes we work as at our district, and sometimes we work as a board across the whole district. And that's what we did last night.
Thank you, Dr. Piercy. Brandon?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to figure out how big of a was teacher vaccinations in the decision. It seems like Las Cruces vaccinated 1,900 teachers because those doses were made available early, whereas you guys had a mass vaccination event canceled. Do you feel like if you had had the same opportunities to vaccinate teachers, you would have had more teachers willing to come back, and would it made a difference to where you could have come back?
I think it would have helped. I think the reality is, My dad always told me your actions speak louder than your words. So for our teachers who felt like they were in line to get vaccinated, to suddenly be told, no, you're not, I think that had an impact. And I think they were understandably concerned about the ability of the Department of Health to get the vaccinations out to them quickly and efficiently if they returned.
Thank you, Superintendent Elder. Brittany Costello, Channel 4.
Yes, so we heard from a lot of very passionate students last night, and those were just the students who signed up to speak. If you log on to Twitter, I mean, it's kind of blown up. I just want to know, what do you have to say to those high school seniors? Maybe they participate in sports, maybe they don't, maybe they just wanted to be back. Were they taken into consideration at all? Did you guys take the students' needs and wants into consideration? And what do you have to say to these kids who have literally nothing to look forward to?
Well, let me clarify this a little bit, okay? We heard back, not just the ones you heard last night. We heard back from a lot of students. Now, this is not a great sample because, we didn't hear back from all 75,000 students. 30 of the ones I heard back said, we feel like it would not be safe, at least for our parents, our grandparents, or whoever we're living with too, as well as ourselves, to go to school. These kids are not just on one side or the other, okay? And furthermore, they do have things to look forward to. This is a short-term thing, guys. They're getting educated. We're going to make sure that concerns, we're going to work with them. It's not a good thing. The pandemic is not a good thing. We have had a pandemic here. This isn't just us deciding we're not going to give opportunities here for our kids. We're trying to look out for all of our students, all of our kids, all of our parents, all of our teachers together. And that's a complex thing to do. So I think the kids have plenty to look forward to. And I think the opportunities here from what we've learned from online delivery and the pedagogy for doing that, as well as the platforms for doing that, as well as a lot of things those resources allow us to do, is going to help us do a lot better job here in the future in terms of how we actually educate our students. So if we look positively on this and take an opportunity here to make it better, it's going to be a better educational environment as we go through this. So I think that's an opportunity for us.
Okay, Brittany Bade from 13. Brittany?
Dr. Piercy, you mentioned, we had to make a decision. We had to move forward. Based on the numbers we got from Secretary-designate Dr. Tracy Collins yesterday, it is reasonable and fair to assume that most teachers will be able to get vaccinated. Most school staff will be able to get vaccinated, by May or so, within the next few months. Is summer school on the table? Would you be wanting to get students back into the classroom over the summer? Is that something families should be thinking about or be preparing for?
Well, I'll let Scott answer too. From my perspective, the answer is absolutely. The answer is whatever we can do from an extended learning, from our learning recovery, from getting students involved, face-to-face, in school, whatever we can do, we're going to try to do that. And so when we get vaccinated, when we have green, when we have a lot better situation here, we're going to do that as soon as we can. We may be able to take advantage of some of the CARES funding that's going to come to us. We're going to be looking at those things. And I know Scott has been looking at this, that administration has been looking at this all along as a possibility. We have models for done this in the past with some of our at-risk schools. And so we know how to do that. It's just a matter of making sure that we understand exactly what kind of learning recovery we need to do. And that's what the administration is going to be working on. Okay.
Right, and we are working on a summer school plan. And again, I'm glad to hear that they're projecting that people will have their vaccinations. I'd say to an extent, we've heard that before, and I think would like to see it happen. We're very excited to get the kids back in, and we're very excited to get the teachers back in. We want to have schools get back as much to normal as possible, as soon as possible. So we have some plans for summer school that include face-to-face if it's possible, and include virtual if that's the way we're forced.
Thank you.
Just to
Shall-
follow up just a little bit. Yeah, just to follow up a little bit, I understand that Las Cruces has actually had 85% of their teachers have had their first vaccine, and they're getting the second one soon. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to do that. Okay.
Shelby, Cedar, and then Myra will get to you. Shelby?
Yeah, I had a quick clarification and then an additional question. So the clarifying question, what I'm hearing is that it'll be up to the individual schools to pick which kids come for small groups based on need and teacher availability. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is a timeline question. When will these groups start, and when can parents expect a call if their kid's identified for it?
Well, I think we're going to be meeting with, we had a meeting with principals this morning to start looking at it. The implementation period is between the 22nd to the 8th. We anticipate some groups being able to start by the 1st, but we wouldn't stop schools if they wanted to start earlier. So parents would be hearing, I would assume, either next week or the first week of March. And I would say that those groups may modify over time. Teachers may choose to work with different groups of kids over that period of time. So just because you didn't hear something immediately wouldn't necessarily mean you wouldn't be included later based on something that happened in terms of the child's progress.
Cedar?
Dr. Piercy, can you talk about the timeline for making a decision about the fall semester? I think it's been pretty surprising to a lot of people how long these last decisions have made. And so are you gonna schedule a vote for that before the end of the semester?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, our plan is to be full in school in the fall. I'm not sure a vote, of course, how the safety things go and how I think we'll have vaccinations pretty widespread. Okay. That doesn't mean we understand everything about the virus. You know, we have some variants. We need to make sure that they're being taken care of and that these vaccines will have regulations put out by the state in terms of what we're allowed to do. But I'm fully optimistic that we're going to be full in school in the fall, and that we will probably have some additional safety requirements, precautions that we still have to take. It's not going away completely, probably, but I think the widespread vaccines are certainly going to help us. And so, I'm planning myself to say, hey, that's what I'm saying to people. I plan on full in school in the fall, but of course, we're going to have to go by how the state gives us regulations and so forth to do that. But we're planning on that. I know Scott's planning on that. It's just a matter of integrating what we've learned now to make a better educational environment for us. Okay, so that part is certainly something we'll be working on.
Thank you, Dr. Piercy. The last couple of questions are going to go to Myra. Myra was needing a response in Spanish. And for those of you who need to leave, we do want to invite you to go to aps.edu and take a look at our choice fair. That's the event that we've done typically at the convention center, but given the circumstances, weren't able to do that this year. Myra, what are your questions?
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to see if Scott can just give a quick summary of yesterday's results and the options that parents have about those that want to go back to school for the small groups.
Okay, I'll try. Okay, so ayer APS decidió regresar a, let me try again, Myra, I got myself confused there. I just about to say we were going to return to online learning, we never left it, so.
You online learning.
Okay. Entonces, ayer nosotros decidimos how do you say remain, Myra?
Continuar.
Continuar. I had it. So, ayer APS decide continuar usando la computadora para la educación para los estudiantes. Tenemos una educación virtual para hasta el fin de semestre. Pero en algunas escuelas hay oportunidades para los maestros que quieren regresar a selectar algunos estudiantes para grupos pequeños para estudiar quizás 1 hora o 2 horas en un día para mantener o mejorar los hábitos en la escuela. So, los maestros van a discutir empezando lunes y probablemente los parientes van a recibir una llama en dos semanas si los estudiantes tienen la posibilidad a estudiar en la escuela con los maestros.
Muy bien, gracias. Entonces, ¿tienen solamente que esperar una llamada o ellos pueden llamar si quieren esta opción?
Probablemente una llamada o un email. Los maestros van a comunicar con las familias cuando ellos tienen la idea a cuáles estudiantes van a regresar. Y no es una regresa normal, no es más de algunas horas en una semana. No es 2 días, no es 4 días, no es 5 días. Es un grupo pequeño para mejorar hábitos en las clases.
Esto podría incluir tal vez a estudiantes que, por ejemplo, con alguna, como mentalmente no hemos visto que algunos padres
Sí.
se preocupan mentalmente de los niños que, por ejemplo, quieren ver a otras personas.
Sí. Vamos a explorar la idea. Es probar, hay muchas cosas. So, académicos, cosas sociales, problemas con la salud mental, o quizás ellos tienen problemas con la tecnología o la accesibilidad. So, los maestros tienen muchas posibilidades para selectar los estudiantes.
Thank you, Myra. Superintendent Elder, thank you. Just the last 2 questions, I sorry to do this, but would you mind just going over those in English? That might be something the rest of the group want. You just talk about some of the factors and, you know, when parents will be notified. You mentioned that earlier, but would you mind repeating that?
You want me to repeat it or Myra?
In English. No, I'm sorry. No, Myra's good. Myra's off the hook. If you wouldn't mind just repeating the last 2 answers in English for the rest of
Well,
the
one of the questions she asked was, you know, what sort of, I think it was asked in English, was what were some of the criteria that a teacher might use to select a student for small group? And of course, like I said before, it could be academic, it could be social emotional, it could be students who are having some mental health issues that need some counseling. It could be students who are having issues with their technology, how well they can connect. Or is their device giving them a bad time and we need to get them in to just touch base and help them catch up on work or demonstrate that they're understanding the content.
Okay, thank
The
you.
question before that, Myra, I don't remember. I was so nervous.
I think you got it. Thank you, everybody. I promised the superintendent and the board president both have meetings this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Of course, if you have any further questions, you know where to reach me. Have a good afternoon. Thank you,
Thank you all.
Superintendent Elder. Thank you, Dr. Piercy.
Thank you.